I was reading about your travels, and there was a moment of hope that you described to a journalist. The Guardian newspaper was with you on this journey, and it was when you visited a church. So there are some institutions, civic institutions, religious institutions that do show this compassion, but your argument is that government is not displaying that empathy.
Well, there's a certain irony. This was in San Francisco. The church, I was taken over, they said, let's do a tour of the relevant areas, but first we'll go to this church. And I thought, I've been to 1,000 churches in my time, partly in my poverty role. I don't want to waste a lot of time here. Walked in through the door, and then suddenly I see this sea of humanity. Every pew was sort of full of homeless people sleeping or resting. And it was the most amazing sight because they had done it in a very orderly, organized way that employed 10 formerly homeless people to keep everything under control. When Mass was to be celebrated twice a day, they had to leave, or they could stay for Mass, but they couldn't just sleep through it. And it seemed like just a wonderful use of the church. So I said to the woman who was in charge of this is terrific. I presume that other churches are doing it too. And her response was, yeah, one other is, but all the others we've approached have said no. So not even the churches, where this seemed such a natural thing to reach out to the poorest members of their community, are really prepared to do it. But to come back to the key issue, the role of government, I think that is, again, what distinguishes the United States in many ways. The current thrust of official policy is the reverse of the insights of the New Deal and all the assumptions that came with that, which were that government has a role in regulating the economy, both at the top and at the bottom. In other words, businesses cannot thrive unless government is regulating the market in such a way as to facilitate and promote entrepreneurship and so on. That's still happening. Despite all of the rhetoric, the government structures the market, creates the opportunities and facilitates business. But at the lower end, the assumption of the New Deal also was that government had a role to look after those who the system, the capitalist system, leaves in its wake. The capitalist system cannot and never will look after the worst off. That's just the way it is. And so government has that role. But we're moving now to assume that government shouldn't do that government shouldn't provide any services, that all the basics should be privatized. And what that means is that you've got a large percentage of the population who are increasingly neglected, who don't have access to the really essential care and education and so on that they need.
There were always these two ideals that I grew up with as a child of immigrants, that there is this notion of self-reliance and hard work, which you hear a lot from conservatives in this country, but there is also this notion of equal opportunity. Is what you're saying you saw in this journey that the balance has been skewed, that there is less equal distribution of opportunity versus a focus on everyone shall be self-reliant and everyone shall be hardworking and therefore fulfill this American dream?
Well, I think the American dream is one of the land of opportunity, so that if all of us have an equal opportunity, those who really work hard, those who have talent will rise to the top and be rewarded generously. And those who don't, well, that's their fault and they look after themselves. They suffer their own consequences. The problem is that the United States has now become actually the least mobile of all, socially, of all of the rich countries. And so the research shows, without contradiction, that if you are born in a particular zip code, your chances of getting out of that zip code are generally very low. But the good news is that is certainly true for the rich zip codes, because you'll go to a great school, you'll have good childcare, you'll have peer groups that will foster growth in various ways, and you will stay rich. But if you're born in a poor zip code, you'll have bad childcare, you'll have lousy healthcare, you'll have very low quality education, you'll have influences that are extremely negative, and the chances are you will remain very poor for life. So in reality, we're not providing equality of opportunity. We're providing a golden opportunity for a small percentage of the society, and we are providing virtually no opportunity for those who are living in poverty.